Today on the show, we have Brad Inhulsen from Sears Real Estate, which is in Greeley, Colorado. Let me tell you a little bit about Brad. Brad has been selling real estate since May of 2008, right out of college. He was telling me beforehand he has never had another job, so this is his entire career from college on. Brad was also Rookie of the Year his first year and Realtor of the Year with the Greeley Area Realtor Association. Brad has also just recently received NAR's 30 Under 30 award, and the magazine will be coming out soon. He is involved with National Association of Realtors and is the political advisor for his congressman for all real estate issues there in Colorado. Last year, Brad had 60 transactions and 72 transactions with his team member, Christian. He is a husband, a dad. Millie, his daughter, just turned 1 over the weekend, so congratulations to Millie and family. Please visit Brad at his website, which is Brad Inhulsen, which is Inhulsen .searsrealestate.com. And Brad, welcome to the show. Thanks for being on.
Yeah, DJ, thanks for having me today.
We're really excited to chat with you. By the way, congratulations not only on, of course, your daughter's birthday, but also on your recent 30 Under 30 win from National Association of Realtors. That's a big, big deal. There are 1.7 million realtors in the United States, somewhere around there. Now, obviously, most of those aren't rookies, but a good percentage of them are. So even if you beat out several 100,000 agents, which you probably did, that's a big, big award. So congratulations there.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was a kind of a fun experience, but also one that was nerve-wracking to find out also.
I can imagine, but obviously they recognize what you've done thus far in your career. I would also like to go all the way back to you finished college and you decided to be a realtor. Was that always the plan? Is that what you went to school for, or was it something you decided to do after college that maybe you weren't thinking of doing?
So there was actually a real estate class that I took, and it was basically the federal part of the exam.
Sure.
And we were buying a house. It was nothing like buying a house, but it was talking about what that process looked like.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with the process. So I talked to my career counselor, and I said, hey, how do I make this thing a real life experience? So I called my managing broker, and she said, yeah, we're not going to, she wasn't my managing broker at the time. I had called her and said, hey, I'd love to do an internship. She goes, yeah, we're not going to do that. You have to get your license first. And I was like, oh, that's weird. And then I called every other company in town and everybody said no. And I was like, well, I have a maybe. I just have to get a license, right? So that's pretty easy. So halfway through getting the license, I called her and I said, I'm about 50% done. Do I need to pass a test, or like, what do you need from me?
Right.
Seriously, you started working on that? I'm like, you told me to, so that's what I started doing. Called me in, and I did an internship kind of thing. Didn't count for classes, didn't get paid or anything, but it was great experience. And I'm here today, still with the same company, love the company, and I'm glad I did it.
Well, congratulations. That's awesome that you took the initiative to do that, and also that you knew that you wanted to do it that early on. But then the big challenge is, and for everyone listening, they already know what I'm about to ask, which is, of course, how challenging it might have been once you started, because I don't know about your community. By the way, we should mention Brad is in Greeley, Colorado, which is a smaller community of the county that he represents. Has about 200,000 people, residents. So it's limited in size for sure. And I can imagine we've had a lot of agents on who have started early in their 20s, and they're like, oh man, it was really difficult finding clients because, of course, most of your friends likely, or people who are your age, probably aren't buying homes at that point, or I mean, maybe some are, but most aren't. And also just convincing people that you're the right guy. Can you talk about like how you started to do that? What worked for you?
Well, the first thing I did was I made sure I kept the facial hair because that did make me look a little bit
It's
older.
very
Because I
smart.
did start when
I
I was
love it.
21 years old. So a lot of people are looking at this 21-year-old like, does he have a clue what he's doing here? But it was really good being able to sit down with people. I really learned at the beginning that a lot of people, no matter how old they are, they have no freaking clue what the heck they're doing. And so having somebody that can partner up with them, take the time, and I think the time is the biggest thing. And especially now when we're going to be doing this socially distancing uh,
Sure.
thing, we need to be able to spend more time with people and say, hey, this is how the process works. And here's the step by step. I hate the word hand holding, and I tell everybody that too. I hate saying hand holding, but
Right.
that's what you do. You need to hand hold people
Sure.
help them through the process. So I literally just did everything. So I did open houses. I did the cold or the knocking. I didn't do a lot of cold calling, but
So you
anytime,
wait, when you say knocking, I want to pause for just a moment. So you would knock on random doors that you
yeah,
did people you didn't know.
well, we called it the 5 by 5 or however you want to call it. So if you were doing an open house, you'd go 5 houses
Oh,
over
right.
and then basically canvas the area. Hey, I'm holding your neighbor's house open this weekend. If you want to just come take a look at it because you're a nosy neighbor, come on by. I'd love to see you.
By the way, I want to pause for a second because Brad just said something really, really important. So he would work an open house, whether it was his listing or someone in his office. He would say, "Please let me do your open house," and they would let him do it. And then, in order to get people to show up, one strategy, and I want to ask Brad what percentage of realtors in his area do this, the 5 by 5. Brad basically said, I'm going to knock on the neighbor's door, say, "Hey, by the way, this Saturday at 10 or whatever, I'm going to be hosting an open house. Love to have you come by if you're interested." Just seeing, and Brad's right. Neighbors are extremely nosy, and whether or not they're going to buy the home 3 doors down is pretty unlikely, of course. But what a great opportunity for Brad to be like, "Hey, by the way, if you need help with anything else." So this is such a great strategy, and I'm curious, Brad, because we have had well over 100 guests on the show, and only one other than you has talked about knocking on neighbors' doors. I imagine 99% of realtors probably don't do that. What a smart, was that successful for you? Did it help drive some traffic in the door?
I can't say that I've counted the number of closings that
Hmm.
I've gotten from it, but I can tell you that it's helped me be top of mind awareness, and I've been
Smart.
able to be in front of people. I think most people, well, I can't say that for sure, but I feel like a lot of people can say, "Oh yeah, I know who Brad is." They may not know me personally, but they
Sure.
know who I am because I do everything, even if it's the stuff that our office is a sponsor on. So we have oil and gas chili cook-off. We make this big thing of chili, and we have shifts that agents are there. Well, I try to be there for the biggest chunk of it because you
Sure.
never know when someone's going to come up and say, "You know what? I actually do need to sell my house, or I do want to buy a house."
Yeah.
I've had a lot of that for sure.
That's really smart is getting involved in your community. You're not only involved in your community, you're also involved in your local association. You're involved in the national association as well. And that of course is something we can chat about. But I wanted to, so you were getting started. Did you just basically ask other realtors in your office, "Can I do an open house for you?" Was that before you had your own listings? Is that what you did?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And there were people who just they still are there. The open houses aren't as good, and obviously we can't be doing them right now. But at
Sure.
the time, they didn't want to be doing all of the open houses. So there were weekends where I would do 5 open houses a weekend. I would do three
Wow.
on Saturday and 2 on Sunday, and they would be hour and a half, 2 hour open houses. But they paid for me to be in the paper, and I got to be there. And all those buyer leads that came in, I got
Those
to
are
keep.
yours. Yeah. Yeah.
And most of the time, I never sold those houses. It was
Of
a lot of
course.
trying to get the buyers who are walking through the door to sign up with me.
It's such a great idea, and now that this is something that the vast majority of our guests have stated, which is they said beg and plead other agents in your office if you can host an open house for them, and you might have to beg and plead a few different times. We've had guests on the show who have said, if somebody asks me once, I say no, and they ask me that like 3 times, and I'm like, okay, they're serious. But this Brad just brought up the best really the strongest point, which is, he might not have actually found a buyer for that property, but now he has a list of people to follow up with, who, obviously will be buying a property somewhere at some point. And just, I couldn't agree more. And feel like that's such a strong idea. Can you talk a little bit about, so you're younger, you're doing open houses, and when you started, were you working mostly with buyers, with sellers? How did it work for you?
Yeah, primarily I was working with buyers, and
Sure.
I still love working with buyers today. They just seem to be more fun. There's more energy that way
Yeah.
versus let's just get this done. Let's move forward here.
Right.
But with that, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. So I hope I'm
Sure. No,
causing
please.
an issue there. But for others out there, our office works in a weird way. We have a lot of collaborative agents in our office. It's not and that's part of what I like about our office versus some of these other bigger ones, because we're not always competitors. We
Sure.
are collaborators. So we want to make sure that everybody's doing well. So I sat down with a lot of agents. There is one agent in our office who's phenomenal at open houses. I got to watch him interact with people. High producing listing agent in our office. I got to sit with him. I got to go with another lady on some showings, and I've literally taken pieced together little parts of each of those agents and said, well, I don't like everything that person did. And there's nothing
Right.
against them, but it
Yeah.
wasn't my technique. But I pulled the things I liked, and I think that's where I am today and who I am today is just a little bit of everybody. And if you have the ability to sit down with somebody and pick their brain, do it.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. And this is such a great time to start developing or furthering those relationships with other agents, whether they're in your office or maybe other offices, and they're still willing to sit down with you. And maybe they'll let you sit in on a phone call or a Zoom meeting, or eventually when we're all back to doing things in person, maybe they'll let you host an open house or watch them host an open house, like Brad was saying, watch them do a listing presentation. I mean,
Yes.
I have found, and Brad, I imagine you'll agree that it's shockingly a lot of top producers who really are too busy. Like yourself, you're too busy to even spend time on our show, but you found time. But I imagine what you find, at least it's been our experience with all the guests we've had, that they tend to be very open when somebody says, I would love to pick your brain, or I'd love to get a sense of how you do things. And they're number one, it's very flattering.
Yeah.
And then number two, why try to reinvent the wheel when there's somebody who's already really good at something that maybe you aren't yet? And you can just take, as Brad said, the best parts that fit in with your personality and your brand, and then utilize that.
Well, you're not asking for their secret sauce. I mean, you're
Right.
just asking for the ability to sit down with them and say, what are some things that you do different? What are you willing to share with me? I mean, really, I'm not asking for your secret ingredient, because there is no secret ingredient. You
That's
are
true
the
too.
secret ingredient. How are
Yeah.
you, talking to people? How are you interacting with people? That's way more important than a script. I mean, I
Right.
can say the same. You and I can have the same script, and we can say it two different ways, and it could hit with one, and it could miss with the other, or whatever. But it's not a secret sauce, you guys.
Yeah, we had on the number one agent in New York recently. He's done 3 trillion in transactions, just some insane number. And I said, "How did you do that?" Because he first got started, he really knew nothing about real estate, and he got all of his listings on cold calls. He said if he got somebody on the phone, and he's not that salesy, he's a
Yeah.
very just nice guy. And he said he had about a 70% conversion rate if he got somebody on the phone who was selling their property. This is in New York City. And maybe New Yorkers are a little bit more acclimated to phone call stuff. I don't know. But either way, I said, that's incredible. And he kind of went, I guess. He goes, I don't think I did anything unique or special. But wouldn't it have been great to hear some of those phone calls?
Oh yeah.
Because yeah, and what I find is, and again, this was the number one producer in New York. He had time to be on our show. These top producers who you think are too busy, they're probably not getting as many flattering calls like, wow, I really admire you. Could I take you to coffee, or right now maybe a virtual coffee? But can I just buy you lunch, or can I just sit in and talk to you for a few minutes? I have some things I'm trying to do in my business, and you're really good at this. And I would just love to pick your brain about what works and what's worked for you. And you'll find that a vast majority of the people you reach out to are so honored and flattered that they're going to want to spend time with you. Would you agree?
Absolutely. It's been a lot of people who I didn't think would give me the time of day, and yet they're like, yeah, let's go do that. That's no big deal. And what's it cost to me to spend 20, 30 bucks for a lunch and
Yeah.
to give me some pointers, some advice, or willing to even just sit down and talk with me? Pretty awesome.
I agree, and I think and really cheers to you for doing that. And it takes a little bit of courage, and you're going to get some no's. There are going to be people that just say, I mean, we ask people to be on our show. Most people say yes, almost everyone does, but few people are like, nah, and we just go, okay, well, no big deal. We'll just find someone else. But I wanted to talk specifically or get your thoughts on networking, because I know that was really important, and I know you've talked about that, networking with other realtors, networking in your community, giving back, being part of various events. Is there anything else that you recommend? Like, for example, when you were first starting out, did you also reach out to everybody you knew, made sure they know you were a realtor? What other types of networking sort of worked for you?
Yeah, when I got started, I let anybody and everybody know that I was in real estate, because you honestly have no idea who knows someone that's looking right now. So I did a lot of that. I did a lot of the printed newsletters. I sent printed newsletters to even my friends who were renting. I have a friend that was from college. They bought a house shortly after college, and he has continued to refer me all the time. And I think it's part of because I do the newsletters. I think it's not everybody reads the newsletters, but sometimes they're
Sure,
like, oh, more junk in the mail from Brad, even better. They
sure,
see junk, they're like, junk, Brad, trash. That's okay. To me, that doesn't really
sure.
bother me at all, because you still saw Brad's face come in the mail,
Yep.
and it was a little touch. That's all it really was.
I am such a big fan of that. And there are some training systems that are also supportive of that. I know Brian Buffini,
Yes.
his training system, they call them items of value. But basically, the idea of sending a printed, we all know this as we're listening, is every other realtor has a electronic newsletter, right? Now we know those don't get read either. And I guess they're better than nothing. I mean, I guess it doesn't hurt, but the idea of sending printed material is not that common anymore. And Brad's right. Whether somebody reads the newsletter or not isn't really the point. I mean, hopefully they read it, but it really doesn't matter because it's branding. They're seeing Brad's name, even if it's 2 seconds before they go, I'm not interested in this
Right.
month. But hey, that was nice of them to send it. And it certainly keeps your name in front of them. And we all know from advertising and marketing 101 that repetition is what wins the game. So how often do you do newsletters? Are those monthly? Are they every other
Yeah, so
month?
we've shifted it up a little bit. I was doing newsletters every month, and then I just was like, the content and coming up with new stuff
It's
is
a
really
lot.
hard. But then we found another program that, oh, I'm gonna forget what it's called. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry to
That's all right.
them. It'd be a great shout out. But anyways, they send coupons, Boomerang. They send coupons in the mail, and
Yeah.
all I pay for is the printing and the postage. They
Oh,
find
I
the coupon.
love that.
And all I do is send it in the mail. Here's my list. And they've got all kinds of companies up and down the Front Range of Colorado. And so if my person happened to be in Denver, let's say, well, they get the Denver coupon.
Sure.
That's kind of cool. But it's a great touch, and that's way better. We do that every month because I think it's, if we do it every month, it's like 82 cents a person.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
automated.
Yeah, and you're basically spending, $12 a year per person.
Right.
And
Right.
if just one of those people buys a home, it pays for the entire year, I'm sure, for all and of course more than that is going to reach out. And boy, that's great. I'm so glad you mentioned them. I wasn't familiar, so everyone check out Boomerang to see if they service your area as well and provide those coupons. I've never heard of a realtor doing that. I think that is so smart. And
But it's
also, if you
right
think
between
about,
something of value, something that people can
yeah.
use, and they're not going to just be like, oh, it's a newsletter. Well, this is something you can actually, I think one
Yeah.
time, well, before old Chicago shut down around the country, there was
Sure.
like $10 off if you spent $25 or more. I was like,
That's
that's
a
a
good
huge
coupon.
coupon. Someone called me and said, how are you affording this right now? That is a lot of money. It's like, it's just a coupon. It's not, I'm not paying $10 per pizza, you guys.
But that's it, it's a really, it speaks to a much bigger point, which is to say, think about consistently adding value. Like, what can I do? Of course, not, look, if putting a newsletter is awesome too, and I don't want to take away from that, because that does provide value. A coupon is going to provide value to most people. A real estate newsletter is going to provide value for people that are interested in real estate at that moment. And again, it's branding even for people that aren't interested. But a coupon is very well appreciated. And we sort of live in a coupon world now anyway, mostly electronic coupons. But we all, before we hit purchase at whatever retailer online, we're going to be searching, is there a coupon code?
Right.
And Brad, and I think it's just very cool to have, so also to support the local community by providing these coupons, especially of course right now when a lot of the retail shops and restaurants are struggling. But that's such a smart idea. It reminds me, Brad, I'm going to just hijack just for a moment.
Go
There's
for it.
another company that I want to give credit to, that I really should reach out to be a sponsor on our show. But they're called Happy Grasshopper. They do something kind of similar. I don't know if you're familiar, but what they do is they took the email newsletter and made it a little bit more fun. So for people that are doing email newsletters, and we know nobody reads those, but that's not really the point of having them. They're still good to send out. But what they did is they said, nobody reads these. Let's make them more fun. So what they do is, I think it's every 3 weeks, they'll come up with a couple of fun, wacky news stories, depending on what time of the year it is. So right now it's in May. So I don't know, maybe there's funny Memorial Day stories or whatever. And every couple of weeks you go into your portal and you say, okay, they have like 5 stories. They go, which one do you want us to send out? And they have nothing to do with real estate. They're just funny, weird, wacky stories. And then they send out an email on your behalf saying, hey, Memorial Day, happy Memorial Day is coming up. I found this really funny article that you should check out. And that's it. And then they put a link to it. And I love it because everyone loves a funny, wacky little story. And so if you're looking for email newsletter options, check out Happy Grasshopper. They're really cool and fun. Just kind of a different take on the same old boring newsletter, which I like. But yeah, so thank you for Boomerang that tip. That's awesome. I hope our listeners check it out. I want to talk to you about something you do called Tour Tuesdays, which we were talking about this before we got started. I am so impressed that you do this, and I really want to spend some time on it. So you can tell our listeners what that is.
Yeah, so primarily every Tuesday, and sometimes we record it on Monday, so there's the behind the scenes there for you. But we go and we find a property that's active on the market. We try to make sure that they're not under contract. And I bought a little gimbal from Amazon or Best Buy, and it helps steady the camera so I'm not shaking all over the place. And it takes me probably 20 minutes. It takes me longer to probably set everything up, turn lights on, open doors, than it actually takes me to do the Tour Tuesday. So I literally have a selfie stick basically, and I'm talking about the property, and it's another way to push it out there. Even if it's not my listing, I do this. So I get permission from the agent and the seller, and just make sure they're okay with me putting it on my page. And I give them a shout out that says, hey, this is listed by so-and-so from our office. And we walk through the property. That's really all it is. I have literally sold a house because of that. I've actually sold multiple houses because of that. And people saying that was kind of cool. I'm actually ready to start looking again now.
So let's go through this process, because I want to make, so even if it's not your listing, you'll reach out to the list agent and say, hey, I would love to do a virtual showing to all of my social followers. I want them to see this particular property. Does the list agent, I know you'll do it for your own as well, but does the list agent also want to be part of it, or do they say, okay, just go do it? And
I did that with a commercial property. They wanted to be a part of it. They're like, hey, your Tour Tuesday is kind of fun. Can we do our commercial property? We've got 3 suites we want to sell. Sold 2 of the 3 in the building, which was pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
They sent me a referral for it too. I was not expecting that part. But literally we did this long video. at the very beginning of me actually doing it. So there's three of us like standing in front of the camera like this, and we're super close, and two people are just listening while someone's talking, and it was awful. But people were impressed with actually walking through the property, seeing
Sure.
the what the office space looked like. People love it. So most people don't want to be a part of it, but they're like, yeah, go ahead and promote my listing, get it sold. That's all I care about.
Right. Oh, I love that. And so you just were reaching out to now, even if they're agents at a different office, doesn't matter to you, just a property you found
We've
interesting?
been doing people from our office just because we've
Sure.
got great relationships that way. But
Right.
if anybody in the Northern Colorado area that wants me to do a Tour Tuesday for them, just send me a text or give me a call. I'd love to do it for you.
Well, I can't imagine anyone wouldn't want you to do that. I mean, it is free advertising for
Right.
their property in a platform that might not be getting a lot of attention for that listing unless they're doing their own virtual tours and promoting it on Facebook and Instagram. And we should mention Brad does that. He promotes it on Instagram, IGTV, Facebook, he puts it on YouTube and blasts it out. And now over time, he's developed a fan base of people who want to see these properties, and it's got to be just a lot of fun too.
Well, when we had our stay-at-home order, I had some people who were like, seriously, the stay-at-home, you can't go do your Tour Tuesday? What's going on here? I'm like, I literally am not allowed to go out there. So you're going to have to wait until the state opens back up again for us to do that.
Yeah, I love that. I think that is really smart. Just out of curiosity, are there any other realtors in your area doing that same sort of thing, or is it, as far as you know, is it really just you?
I don't know anybody who's doing it themselves like
Yeah,
I do, because I literally am standing in front of the camera and I'm talking
yeah,
about the property. I know
yeah.
people do virtual tours and stuff like
Sure.
that. Photographers are doing that, and you've got the music that's going in the background, and
Yeah, yeah.
I don't really like those. But at the same time, I love to be able to go through, and I make sure that when I'm doing it, it's not perfect. And if I screw up, I'm gonna keep going because
Yeah.
people want to know that you're a real person. And
Yes.
I am a human, and I don't know if you guys know this, but I make all kinds of mistakes. So I let people know about that.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I think there's a lot of us who might be listening, thinking, "Oh, I'm not comfortable in front of a camera." And what I will tell you is, very few people are ever comfortable in front of a camera. I'm not comfortable in front of a camera. I can't speak for Brad, but I mean, I'm really not. And I don't think people need you to be polished and perfect. They just want good content. And
Yeah.
if you're walking through a house and genuinely getting excited about various aspects of it and providing good information, whether there's a mistake, or whether you trip walking backwards through the
Right.
kitchen or whatever. I mean, those are the best parts of videos anyway. So I've always felt that the more polished. I mean, look, if you're a professional broadcaster and you have a television show or something, okay, maybe that's a bit different. But I think for everyone thinking, oh, I'm not comfortable, it's like, turn your phone around, go through a listing, try it once, send it to 5 friends and say, hey, was this interesting? Was this, if you want really feedback, but really just the key is just keep doing it. Be consistent. I mean, we've done this podcast for 4 years. I didn't know what I was doing when I first started. I don't know that I'm any better now, quite honestly. I don't know that I'm good at this, but I think the content is good. And I think for maybe that's maybe the only reason that people listen. It's for, these interviews with people like Brad. So I want to encourage everyone, now that we're probably stuck at home more in most of the country, you're likely less mobile than you were prior to the pandemic. You have this opportunity to learn how to get at least a little bit more comfortable through Zoom meetings. Learn how to turn your phone around, and if you have a listing that's vacant, maybe go do a dry run. Go do it and send it to a few people and find out, is this worth posting? Is this okay? And they'll give you feedback.
Well, and like you said, you're going to suck the first time, and
Sure.
every time you get better, more comfortable, and
Sure.
it is what it is. I mean, I love when people say, "Well, I don't look good on the camera." Well, just so you know, if you don't look good on the camera, you don't look good in person either. That your face is your face. So
Right. Yeah, yeah, and just do it. Like, people don't really care what you look like. What they care about is this helpful? Is it good content? And this really, I'd like to segue, Brad, into the other thing that you do virtually on a consistent basis, which is your Facebook Live, your mini webinars, the webinars you do for customers. Can you talk a little bit about that?
we just started that with all the COVID stuff. So we're
Yeah.
still working out all of our bugs, and I'm literally sitting in front of my computer, and this is what my Wednesday. We do a Wednesday video with Brad and Christian, and my business partner Christian does coffee with Christian on Fridays. So we're just trying to do different things. How can we get in front of people? Because I love to be face to face, and I can't do that right now.
Yeah.
So we want to be able to be in front of people and providing other content and making sure that people know that we're still here, we're still working, and that there's houses that are ready to be bought, and let's go sell them.
Well, I also, before we move on from this, I also want to make sure that anyone listening who wants to watch Brad and Christian do these can do that, because not only are there, buyers and sellers and renters that would want to watch this, but also a lot of our listeners want to see what you're doing. We were talking about this earlier, is like learn from people who are already doing it. So what's the best way that somebody could get access to these Facebook Live videos?
So it's on Facebook. So you can either go to it's facebook.com/Brad Inhulsen Real Estate, or you can go brad.inhulsen on Instagram, and I post them up on Instagram too. But yeah, or shoot me an email or text, and I think you're going to provide all my information
Yeah.
probably in the comments below or something like that later. So I'd love to, if you can't find it, shoot me a text and I'll send you the link.
Yeah, I think that's such a smart thing to do. And I wanted to ask now, and I don't know how Colorado, is real estate deemed essential? Are you able to work, or what are the rules right now?
So masks and gloves are required at all appointments and showings. So everybody needs to have that. For a while, we kind of were shut down, where the loophole was you have to put the property under contract, and then you can do your inspection on the property to
Oh,
see it in person. But as of May 27th, I believe the day was, we're back 100%. Still gloves, still masks and everything like that. But I think that's going to be part of the future, honestly.
right. Yeah. What are you doing? Obviously I know you're back, but what were you doing to stay busy? Obviously you talked about, the Facebook Live webinars. Obviously, your tour Tuesdays probably shifted a bit, or had to be put on hold until you're able to get back out. What were you doing while you were really just stuck at home? Were there were you reaching out to clients? How were you staying active during that time?
I printed off a list and I started going down the list. Now, not everybody heard from me the first week, but I think I have to go back through the list one more time just to make sure I hit everybody. But I've hit a great chunk of my clients. And literally, I'm just seeing if they need anything. At the very
It's awesome.
beginning, I made a joke picture. My wife has this display cabinet with a window, and it's full of toilet paper. So I was talking about how some people have a gun safe, well, I have a toilet paper safe. And I actually had somebody who said, "Where are you finding toilet paper?" And so we were able to actually go bring her, and it was an older person. We
Yeah.
were able to bring her toilet paper. So different things like that, just checking in on people because. And I've told some people this too. As soon as the stay-at-home orders happened, there were a lot of jobs that were lost in
Yeah.
the Northern Colorado area. 3 clients of mine lost jobs, and then 2 others backed out. So I mean, I had 5 things under contract at that time that just
Oh,
didn't work out, which is
yeah.
fine. But it
Yeah.
was one of those things that we wanted to start being able to take care of people. There's some sponsorships that we were going to do this year that the events have gotten canceled.
Sure.
So we now have the funds available to help people in that way. And so if they needed food or if they needed um, toilet paper, I mean, that
Yeah.
literally was something that somebody needed. We were able to do that for a while and still are.
Yeah, I think that's such a good suggestion, that we have to realize, even now, and in other parts of the country where we're still completely locked down. Chicago is eased a little bit, but still we're 90% of people aren't going back to the office. So there's this thing that we have to remember, that people are lonely. Some people are lonely, and certainly are alone. They may not have other people living with them, or they may not be as connected to friends and family. They may have lost jobs. Financially, they may be struggling. There's just a different level of stress that existed today, that a lot of people are experiencing. And so I've said this on pretty much every episode over the last month or two, which is to say, like, even just like Brad was saying, the art of the act, right? Not the art, the act of simply just reaching out and saying, how are you doing? Is a very, very powerful thing to do. And also, not many, we always think people are getting a lot of those kind of phone calls, but they're probably not, unless it's friends and family, probably not hearing from other real estate agents, or just any other professionals. So this is a great opportunity. And Brad did exactly the right thing, in my opinion, which is he just went down his list of his contact list. Said, I'm going to call everybody, see how they're doing, see what they need.
Yep. And there was another agent who I'm really good friends with. He's not a residential broker, but he used the word depressed one time, and that was a hard thing for me to hear.
Yeah.
And so that person's been on my list. And our colleagues too, you guys are needing help too, because there's a lot of people who want to spend time with people and are not. I'm a huge extrovert, and me being stuck at home right now is the worst. So I wish that I could go do all my networking events again. I wish that I could just go give someone a handshake. I mean, I haven't given anybody a handshake in months now.
Yeah.
So just different things like that, we are all missing out on. And like you said, just a simple text or a quick phone call is awesome. Huge.
Yeah, I just signed up for a thing, and I hate to even say it because it might sound like I'm bragging, and I assure you I am not. But I just thought I'd say this because I'd never heard of it. Somebody suggested it to me, and I thought I should share it because everyone else may be interested. Is I just signed up for, and this was in the Chicago area. I imagine they have this stuff nationwide in various forms, but it was like an adopt a senior citizen thing. So you think like, well, who might be some of the loneliest people out there right now? Are seniors tend, especially if they're living in certain facilities where friends and family have passed on or just don't live nearby or aren't close, emotionally or whatever. You have a lot of lonely seniors. And so I signed up to adopt a senior, and I'll be doing Zoom meetings with them a couple times a month. And it's not a tremendous amount of time. And obviously for those listening, I don't practice real estate personally, so there isn't any direct benefit for my business to do that. However, if I was a practicing realtor, I would imagine that by, volunteering, giving time, especially during this pandemic, people are going to find out what it is you do. And especially if you're somebody that, everyone has to live somewhere. I imagine that, even if it's a senior, they might say, oh, by the way, not that you wouldn't be doing it for this reason, but, oh, by the way, my grandson is looking to buy a home, and can you help him? Or, so there's lots of opportunities to give back right now, and to connect with people who may be otherwise lonely, whether it's your clients or volunteering. And I encourage everyone, now that we have just a little bit more time than we normally do, just, think about how you can use that time to make somebody feel a little bit less alone.
Yeah. Great. I love that.
Yeah, I do want to hear your story. We were talking about this offline, and I want to hear your story about it, because it's not that it's a funny story per se, although it is humorous, but more really about your willingness to go above and beyond for a client. Can you talk about the story where you helped a client move as they were selling their property?
Yeah. So I had a client who was, Colorado is a table funding state. I don't know if Illinois is that way. You guys are.
I don't. Could you explain what that means?
So literally, as soon as you're done signing the documents and the money is there, you can take possession of the property.
Yeah. We're the same. Yeah.
Okay. So I wasn't sure if you guys were like California or not on that, but literally we had a closing at, I think it was 1:00, and I think we actually moved it back a couple hours anyways. This lady did not have all of her stuff out of the house. And so I went and got my truck, and we moved her into this storage unit, and she had another storage unit that was full of other stuff. And I said, you need to go rent another storage unit. There was so much crap in there. But we were able to make it work. It was the most unprofessional I've ever been at a closing. I was in jeans and a t-shirt, and I was sweating. I think I had a hat on at the same time. It was the worst and most unprofessional closing I've ever been to. But we got her moved out of the house finally. And she wanted to bring her dog in because it was a little bit colder outside, and she didn't want to leave the dog out there, which I totally get.
Yeah. Well, she's moving. Yeah. She has to.
Yeah, she's moving. It was like a greyhound. It wasn't just like one of those small purse dogs or anything like that. It was a bigger dog, friendly and great. Well, during the process, the dog must have gotten stressed, and I think he ate
Yeah.
a rock or something and upset his stomach. Puked in the closing room in front of God and everyone. It was awful. So we're all just sitting there and we're looking at each other like, who's going to clean up this mess? So then
Yeah, right.
I get up. I'm the one that gets up because I'm in my work clothes,
You're
basically.
already dirty.
I'm already dirty, so I might as well go pick up the puke from the dog. So now my title rep always asks me, are we bringing a dog into the closing? Because we need to know if we need to have some extra napkins or towels there so that we can clean up your mess or whatever.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, were you representing the buyer or the seller?
The
Representing.
seller. I was representing the
Okay, so you're
seller.
representing her. Yeah, I imagine even if you were representing the buyer, you might have still helped out because
I
you,
probably
you
would have. I wouldn't have been happy about it, but I probably would have jumped up and done it anyways.
well, I mean, I think that just goes to show, what Brad's willing to do for his clients, and probably no surprise,
Let's not advertise that stuff though.
Brad is not willing to help you move any further. He has done that one. No, but I, I do love that you did that, because I think that is a real feather in your cap for the amount of dedication. And you're probably like, well, if I don't do this, this is going to screw up the entire closing,
It did.
and everybody loses in that scenario. And so now, I'm gonna just bite the bullet, and then I'm gonna show up to the closing sweaty and in unprofessional attire. But hey, look at I got it closed, and then you're gonna also help out at the closing when there's another challenge. But really, and I know that likely will probably never happen again. But I think
Knock
it
on wood.
really well, yeah. But it really demonstrates your level of professionalism, and probably also those kind of stories are why the National Association of Realtors has awarded you that 30 under 30, which is a huge big deal. And I want to say, obviously, you're doing a lot of things right, and really you've given so much value on this podcast. We've talked about a lot of things, even from just as simple as, hey, but next time you have an open house, knock on some doors in the neighborhood and let people know.
Yeah.
And then also from the mailers, and just going above and beyond, and also thinking about how you can contribute, how you can help, whether it's the people in your community, or in Brad's case, he does that as well as make sure that Colorado's the lobbyists and Congress people are working to help realtors stay employed, and doing all of that. And you're just somebody who's a shining example of active involvement in your industry as well as your community, and probably no surprise on why you've been Realtor of the Year and 30 under 30, and you have all these accolades. And I know you're a very humble person, but it is truly impressive what you've accomplished in a relatively short amount of time, and for as young as you are. It's really amazing. So what I'd like to do to wrap up is, Brad, we said this earlier, but we didn't get specific, is if there are any buyers, sellers, renters, investors, anyone looking to work with a top agent in Brad's area. And Brad, can you talk about the communities you serve, the areas specifically?
Yeah. So primarily, I'm in Weld County, which is the northeast part of Colorado. So that's where I specifically am. So if you guys know where Fort Collins is, I'm east of Fort Collins. I do go into Fort Collins and Loveland, but not as often as I am in Greeley. So my bread and butter is in the Weld County area too.
And if anyone's out there who would like to work with Brad directly, or if you're an agent who may want to just get some advice, what's the best way someone should reach out to you?
Yeah, you can send me an email, Brad, the letter I, at SearsRealEstate.com. And Sears, kind of like Sears and Roebuck, but it's not the same thing. And you could call me, 970-584-4144. Call, text, email. I'm pretty available, and I'm happy to help in whatever way possible, because I want everybody to be better.
Yeah, that's such that last thing you just said. You want everybody to be better. I think perfectly encapsulates your personality, and maybe that's the secret to your success, or certainly one of them is just contributing. You're big into contributing, and I think that personally is something I'm a huge fan of as well. So on behalf of the listeners, Brad, I want to thank you for being on our show. You've given an extraordinary amount of value, lots of great tactics and strategies about how agents can grow their business. And also it's just fun your energy is great. And obviously you your excitement and personality really come through. And I'm going to start checking out some of your Instagram videos as well, because we have 700 realtors at our firm. I don't know that anyone does anything like that, and I want to say you guys need to do these, because obviously they're having a tremendous success. So on behalf of the listeners, Brad, thank you for your time today. Also, on behalf of Brad and myself to the listeners, we want to say thank you for continuing to listen and support our show. Before you sign off, everyone listening, we just ask you to do two quick things. One, please think of one other real estate professional that could benefit from hearing this particular interview with Brad, and send a link over to the show. You can send them a link right to our website, which is keepingitrealpod.com. We just completely rebuilt it from the ground up. It's much easier to find things, or just have them pull up a podcast app and search for Keeping It Real. We'll pop up. Second thing is, please follow us on Facebook. You can find us at facebook.com/Keeping It Real Pod, or just search for Keeping It Real Podcast. And the reason for that is, not only do we, of course, promote all of our episodes there, but every single day we find an article that's written from some website online, specifically written to help agents grow their business. It's the only things we post are our episodes and articles to help you grow. So hopefully we're providing value there. So again, facebook.com/Keeping It Real Pod. Brad, thank you so much. This was a real pleasure. I'm excited to continue to watch your growth in your local community. And also, I imagine, we'll be seeing you in other committees at the national level. And I feel like there are lots of really cool things coming for you. So congrats on all your success, and thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. I really have enjoyed my time today.